Hi, this is Alex Lindsay from the Pixel Corps, and this is the Teardown, Episode 3. So here we have a wide shot. Looks a little yellow. Most likely this is because you've got a 56K source, which is the sun, coming in from the outside, and that's probably what the camera is set to. But the fluorescents are 42K or somewhere in that range. And because of that, you're going to end up with kind of a yellowy kind of look. It can be corrected to some degree. These might go a little blue if you did. And usually for news, they're not going to have time to do it. But that's why it feels kind of yellow. And I feel like a lot of times in news, when they don't get this right, it just feels a little dingy. So a little bit of a bummer. So, really? If you have a windscreen that's cracked, you'd think that you'd rotate it, and maybe he's got a bigger crack somewhere else. Maybe over here, it's like torn up or something. But I would, you want to think about that kind of stuff. I mean, you just need to rotate this around to not show it, especially on a close up. The other question is why are they actually shooting a close up of this? But that's a whole nother question there. So let's take a look forward here. The funny thing here is that this is usually a cardioid or hypercardioid mic, and it's pointed straight out. And the problem with cardioid and hypercardioid mics is they're super directional. Like that's where it's going to pick up. Now it's got little ribs here so that you can turn it so that you would point it at the person who's actually talking, but instead it's going straight. So I'm not sure exactly what they got out of that. Anyway, nice lower third. Again, simple, does the job. The only complaint I have about these lower thirds is that I really feel like this text is really crowding the white edge here. So it's always just a little close. It's less than the top and bottom. It should be at least the same as those. If not, maybe you could even probably get away with giving it more space. I know they're trying to get as much space as they can inside of this section, but I feel like it's always just a little crowded off to the left. So look at this. This is the classic shot here. This and this. These two are the classic shots. If someone tells you that you're going to go out and do a package in some city, you need the nondescript people walking and the nondescript cars in front of a landmark. This is just, do not come home without that. So here you have a chat. And one of the things that I noticed about this when I was looking at it is in this interview going back and forth from London to Berlin, why are these not centered? There's so much more space over here than there is between the split. It took me a little while to think about what that was, and the reason that looks that way is because they're protecting for 4x3. So if you look at this is the line here, and this is most likely the line there. And so now these look centered. So the graphic is centered. And what happens here is this is, they don't care about the ticker because that's moving and just getting cut off. And you can see the logo is kind of establishing the corner of the standard def frame. These look centered, but now these guys don't look centered. So I feel like you're kind of halfway in between where it's centered for standard def, but not centered in the picture, and then centered properly or close to properly for the, and you can see that they've kind of tagged it a little bit. They're not perfectly centered for either one. And it's just, you kind of have to decide which one you're going to do. I don't fully understand why they made her sit out in the cold for this. This is I think that they want to package this as a government building, and I think that they want to package that there, but I'm not totally certain why it really made sense to not put her in some kind of insert unless one wasn't available. One thing I will say is that the mic placement is amazing. So that mic just feels like it's part of the jacket. It doesn't feel like, you don't even think about her wearing a mic. It's just, it's still sideways, and I feel like you're going to pick up more room noise or more environment noise in this case. But it does look nice, and you don't think about it at all because it just kind of fits into the jacket. You don't get that all the time. Now the problem here is, again, into this kind of, she's a little off-centered because they're kind of crossing between the two things, and so she really should be over here. And you could fix that with the DVE, but admittedly it's hard to do for live television where you're moving quickly. Now this gets into a whole thing where we don't know what's going on because this is not centered, it's going this way, and this one is not centered because it's cut in. I mean, I don't know what the rhyme or reason. It's probably that you're dealing with a whole bunch of different templates that they're kind of putting in there, because all of this stuff is run live, so it's a live template, and it's probably just the way it's set up for this. It was probably set up to frame down the middle. So this is probably centered nicely, and this is centered nicely if you don't do a 2/3 frame. And that's my guess is why it's off. One thing I have to say about Al Jazeera, is that they spare no expense with the sets. These sets always look great. It's just very sleek lines. One thing that I think works well is that these cool colors behind flesh tones tend to, I think, make the person pop out a little bit more. So I really like grays and blues, and that's what they're using here. I think it's a great design piece. The other thing that's nice is these lights. These are all programmable LED lights, which means that you can really change the set very, very fast. Everything here is programmed, all the way down to the cameras. These are these kind of robotic PEDs. And really what these do is that you can program them to go to different positions anywhere in the set, and also you have the pan tilt and you have the teleprompter. So all of that stuff is all combined into this one nice little package. Now, these are expensive. These are probably $150,000 per camera set. But what's nice about them is that you have one person who is shooting. If you're doing this all day, every day, that amortizes very quickly. So this is a really nice looking set. I wish when I grow up, someday I'll have a set like this. Now, our last shot here is a insert, I think. So I think she's in front of green screen. And if she is, this is great detail if she's in front of a green screen. So it's really well done. The reason I think that she's in front of a green screen is because of this gray edge. This is oftentimes there. You get this gray edge that's right on the outside edge that is usually uniform. Usually if it was a light coming from here, there'd be a lot of different things going on. Not always. So she could be in front of something. She could be in front of a TV. But just to talk about green screen for a second, the sharpening that goes on black in front of green oftentimes creates this little gray edge that you see kind of uniform all the way down the side. And so that's the thing you have to look for in these areas. But overall, I think that it's a really good look. What you do better with, by the way, for green screen is if you use something that's a more neutral color, so in the luminance. So it can be like a desaturated blue or green, but not something that's pure black. That's a much harder thing to actually key in front of a green screen. One thing I will say is that this is a nice soft background, whether they're doing that naturally or whether they're putting in front of green screen or a monitor. This is a great look. We talked about this in the last episode of having things too sharp in the background. This look, you can see how your eye tends to go much more towards the subject because the background is soft. That's pushing it in the back. That's just filmmaking 101 applied to an insert. So I think that it was really well done. I wouldn't have put the mic down there. I would have put it right here. It's a kind of an uncomfortable place to have it, and I just think that it'll sound better if it was here. I'm sure that they're worried about this and they're worried about the hair, but I think that it would be easier to place here. And I personally think you'd get better sound. Well, that's it for today. Hope you like it. If you like it, subscribe, tell your friends, all that other fun stuff. If you don't like it, then don't do any of that stuff, and I'll still make more, and you'll just have to deal with it.